Hello again, friends. Carlos Scarpero here, VA mortgage specialist with Epic Lending and Military Mortgage Boot Camp. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about closing costs involved getting a VA mortgage loan. Yeah, it's just like any other mortgage. There are costs involved. There are ways to have the seller pay that, which is a whole different topic. But I'm going to break down exactly what those fees are, so you will have an idea of if that's worth getting for you. So I'm going to go through this step by step. So first, a total breakdown. What I've found in the loans I've done is typically around 2 to 4% of the loan amount is the total costs involved in closing a VA mortgage loan, just based on what I've seen overall. And so here's the breakdown of some of the fees you might expect when you get a VA mortgage loan. I got some notes here, so I don't forget anything. There are a lot of different fees involved. The first one is an origination fee. Not all lenders charge an origination fee. Actually, where I'm at Epic Lending, we actually waive that. But some lenders can and are allowed to charge up to 1% origination. Keep in mind, if they charge the 1% origination, some of the other fees they can't charge, because there's this whole allowable, non-allowable fee, which is a whole different topic. So sometimes they'll do what's called a one-time fee of 1% and then waive some of the other fees out on that. So origination, about 1%. Like I said, a lot of places waive it. The next one is discount points. And so discount points are upfront interest that's paid to lower the interest rate. And so that can be sometimes 1,000, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 or 4. And that oftentimes vary with credit scores. So if you have a really good credit score, you might not have any discount points, or very, very low. If you have a so-so credit score, then you might have to pay a lot of points to make up for that. There are regulations in place that we can't charge just an insane amount of discount points, because then we're in high cost loans and all that kind of thing. So keep that in mind as well. The other thing you might see is a processing fee. Some companies will charge a processing fee to process the mortgage loan. Again, where I'm at Epic Lending does not charge a processing fee, but you might see that as well. Next, we have a credit report. You definitely need a credit report, and we definitely will charge, and that's simply a reimbursement. We cannot, any mortgage lender cannot charge any sort of overage, so it's entirely at whatever cost that we incur to pull the credit, and we remit that directly to the credit reporting agency that we got the credit report from. And that's typically about $50 to $75. Next, we have flood certification, just verifying you're not in a flood zone. And if you are in a flood zone, then flood insurance will be required. That's about $25 to $40, so not too bad there. Next, we have the pest inspection. We look for termites. We look for any sort of wood-boring insects that might damage the house, which is a good thing, because you don't want to have damage on the house. And those run about $40 to $100. In many states, including Ohio, is typically the realtors will have the seller pay that. They'll put that in the contract. But the seller's not always required to pay that. That's a whole different discussion with allowable and unallowable fees for a whole different topic. But a lot of times, at least here in the Dayton area, what I've seen is that typically they'll put the seller's responsible for that. And it's so common that nobody requires. Like I said, it's $40 to $100. Who cares, right? We also is the whole house inspection. Now, this is paid by you before you start the process, or I'd put the house under contract, I should say, and before you go through the whole process of getting final approval. And this is to protect you, to make sure that the house is not falling apart and all messed up. It's optional. You're not required to have a house inspection, although I highly recommend it. And those are paid outside of closing. It runs about $400. And what's crazy is, like, the one time I've done a deal where the guy is like, "Oh no, I don't need an inspection." That's the one where he ended up needing it because he had to repair right after closing. So I definitely recommend pay the $400. It's worth it. And typically on 99% of contracts, you can actually get out of the contract if you find something on the inspection that's wrong, that's bad. Or you can use that as leverage and tell the realtor, you know what, we're still gonna get this house, so we need you to fix this, 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 and this. And typically that'll save more than the $400 anyway. So it's a great deal, right? Next, we have the appraisal. You need to get the house appraised, make sure the valuation meets what you put on the contract and it's not overvalued, right? Those vary by area. The VA maintains a list of appraisers in different communities. Here in Ohio, where I'm at, about $525 to $600 is pretty typical. If you live in more of a rural area, it might be $1,000. So that varies a lot on where you are and how far the appraiser should drive to get to you. Next, we have the title search. Unfortunately, you're stuck with the title search. The title company will go and look at the chain of title to make sure that the current seller actually owns the house, which is always good. You want to actually buy the house from somebody that owns it, right? That'd be a problem if you bought it from someone that didn't own the house. So title search runs about $700 to $900, and the closing fees in there as well, which handles the closing paperwork as well. Next, we have title insurance. This is the lender's policy that protects the lender in case there is a problem with the title. That runs about $300 to $500. You can also get an owner's policy that protects you, yes, you, in case there is a title problem. It's completely optional to get an owner's policy, although I highly recommend you get that. And it's also about $300 to $500. Yeah, like I said, it's optional. Next, we have filing and transfer fees. Those are fees paid to the county to process the deed and get your name into the county records. That runs about $300, but in some counties, it depends a little bit on property values and how many pages are in the mortgage note and all that kind of stuff, but it's about $300. Next, we have transfer tax, and that is a percentage of the property value. Here in Ohio, where I'm at, typically that's paid by the seller, but I've seen a few contracts, especially on a new purchase, where they'll stick that on the buyer. So you got to watch those contracts because it runs about $500, but that is a percentage of the house value. So it could be more, could be less, and also depends what county you're in. But budget about $500 if you're in a situation where you're buying new construction and they stick that on you on that contract. Next, we have the funding fee. So the funding fee is a upfront mortgage insurance fee that veterans will pay, and it's typically 2.3% for first-time use, and it goes up to 3.6% on subsequent use. Keep in mind that the funding fee can be waived if you are exempt, which means you have a service-connected disability. So keep that in mind as well. Next, we have prepaids. So you have an escrow account. Typically, we're escrowing the taxes and insurance, and then we're going to remit that to the county as those taxes and insurance come due. And we'll have to set that up. So typically, we'll take 3 to 6 months worth of payments, put that in that escrow account, and so we'll do a prepayment at closing to get that escrow account set up, because we can't pay it if you don't have any money in it, right? Finally, we have homeowners insurance. You need homeowners insurance, right? Well, that needs to be paid upfront 12 months in advance. And so that'll be another cost to keep in mind at closing. So there are some of the fees required to get a VA mortgage loan. Now, you can have the seller pay those. The realtor has to put that in the contract. There are some limitations on that, but 99.9% of the time, I'm able to get enough concessions or have my closing costs low enough that the realtor is able to get concessions to have the seller pay all that if you're able to. They might not agree to it, but you can try, right? And those are always fun because you have zero down payment, zero closing costs. It's a true 0-0-0 mortgage. And sometimes you're going to get cash back at closing, which is even more fun. A different story. So those are your fees to get a mortgage loan, or a VA mortgage loan, I should say. As always, if you have any questions, give me a call. My number is 937-572-3713. That is a cell number, so you can text me as well, or scarpero.com. I am based here in Ohio. I'm licensed in Ohio, several other states. And if I'm not licensed in your area, I know loan officers all around the country that can help. Look forward to talking to you soon. Bye.